In 1983, the CIA spent millions of your tax dollars researching whether humans could literally leave their bodies and spy on enemies from the astral plane. But get this, they didn't just research it, they actually believed it worked. After 6 months of chasing this rabbit hole, talking to former participants, and testing the techniques myself, I'm starting to think they might have been right. What you're about to hear will challenge everything you think you know about human consciousness, government secrecy, and the hidden capabilities inside your own mind. Picture this. It's 1983, the height of the Cold War. Ronald Reagan is president. Nuclear tension is at its peak. The Soviets are supposedly developing psychic spies who could infiltrate American facilities without ever leaving Moscow. Intelligence agencies were desperate for any advantage. So the CIA launches the most bizarre classified intelligence program in American history, the Gateway Process, a systematic attempt to weaponize human consciousness itself. I'm holding a 29-page document that was classified for over 2 decades. This isn't science fiction. This isn't some conspiracy theory cooked up in someone's basement. This is your government's actual documented attempt to turn ordinary humans into psychic spies. And honestly, after reading it cover to cover, tracking down former participants, interviewing researchers, and dedicating months to trying the techniques myself, I'm not sure what's more disturbing, that they tried it or that it actually makes sense. What started as a simple debunking investigation turned into the most mind-bending journey of my life. Here's what the CIA discovered, and it gets strange, fast. The Gateway Process wasn't just meditation or relaxation techniques. It wasn't some hippie workshop. It was a scientifically rigorous method using specific sound frequencies called Hemi-Sync to supposedly separate your consciousness from your physical body. They partnered with the Monroe Institute, yes, a real research facility in Faber, Virginia, that still exists today, still teaching these exact techniques to paying customers. The document states, and I'm reading this word for word, the participant can achieve sufficient energy to project his consciousness beyond the bounds of time-space. Read that again. Beyond the bounds of time-space, they're claiming human consciousness can transcend the fundamental limitations of physics itself. If this worked, imagine the implications. No more billion-dollar spy satellites, no more risking human lives in enemy territory, no more expensive surveillance networks. Just send Bob from accounting on an astral reconnaissance mission to the Kremlin during lunch break. And this is where it gets genuinely disturbing. The CIA didn't approach this like some new age retreat or spiritual workshop. They didn't just accept it blindly. They brought in serious scientists, physicists from Stanford, neurologists from Johns Hopkins, military researchers with top secret clearances. The document explains, human consciousness operates on quantum levels. When you achieve the right brainwave state, when both hemispheres synchronize, something extraordinary happens to your perception of reality. I'll be honest, I tried the Hemi-Sync recordings myself. Night after night, lying in my bedroom with professional noise-canceling headphones, following their protocol, exactly step by step. The first few sessions? Nothing, just expensive meditation music, making me feel slightly relaxed, and wondering, had I wasted my money? But session 7 changed everything. 26 minutes into the recording, following the breathing techniques exactly as described, I felt my awareness suddenly expand far beyond my bedroom walls. I could sense my neighbor's house, the street, even the city beyond. The sensation was more vivid than most of my waking experiences. Was it real? Was it just deep relaxation? An altered state? I couldn't tell. But the experience felt more authentic than anything I'd ever encountered. The CIA's findings suggest it doesn't matter what you believe going in, skepticism or faith. The process works Regardless, they documented case after case of participants accurately describing remote locations they'd never visited, classified military installations, foreign embassies, even personal details of targets thousands of miles away. Lieutenant Colonel Wayne McDonnell, the report's author, initially approached this assignment to debunk it. He was a career officer, tasked with proving this nonsense, so the CIA could move on. When someone with his credentials starts writing sentences like, "Consciousness is energy not confined by the physical body," you pay attention. If even 10% of this document is accurate, everything we know about human potential changes forever. Think about this. Over the past century, we've spent trillions on intelligence gathering. Spy satellites, drone programs, human intelligence networks, where people literally die for information. The implications are staggering. Military applications? Obvious. Terrifying. Medical breakthroughs? Revolutionary, suppressed. Corporate espionage? Unstoppable, undetectable. Understanding consciousness itself? Paradigm shattering. So why isn't this front page news? Why aren't universities teaching consciousness projection alongside physics and chemistry? The uncomfortable truth? The CIA quietly shelved the program in the 1990s. Not because it didn't work. The document strongly suggests it worked, sometimes terrifyingly so. They stopped because they realized they couldn't control it. The document I showed you, one of the strangest ever produced by an American intelligence agency, didn't just disappear for a few months. It vanished for over 2 decades, lost by the most sophisticated espionage organization in history, or so they claimed. When the Freedom of Information Act finally forced its partial release in 2003, the contents arrived riddled with redactions and conspicuous omissions. Notably, page 25, the single sheet that, according to multiple insiders, contained the most sensitive operational findings, was absent from every single copy. When pressed by lawyers, the CIA was dismissive. They said it had been, and I quote, accidentally misplaced during routine file transfers. We are talking about an agency with $1 trillion budget. They can intercept encrypted calls bouncing between satellites. Yet they expect us to believe the most pivotal page of their most classified research was simply lost in the shuffle. Sure! What's even stranger? Multiple former study participants have publicly stated that page 25 contains specific, detailed protocols for targeting foreign leaders, clandestinely accessing secure information, and remote techniques so extraordinary they border on science fiction. It's left to the rest of us, to citizen researchers and curious skeptics, to reconstruct the missing details. And the dots that remain connect into a picture that challenges just about everything we think we know about human potential, the capabilities of our government, and the very nature of reality itself. Let's break down the science that underpins these wild claims. The report concludes that out-of-body experiences aren't merely possible. In fact, they become likely, even inevitable, once you understand the underlying mechanics at play. In one passage, the author McDonnell states with absolute certainty, there is no reason to doubt that individuals can learn to use this technique effectively, with proper training and dedication. It's a statement that feels almost casual, despite emerging from the halls of the CIA. But here's the question that keeps people like me up at night. If this research simply continued, out of public view, what abilities could they have quietly developed in the 40 years since it was first written? The basic mechanics are surprisingly straightforward. The human brain produces distinct electrical frequencies: beta waves when you're alert, alpha when relaxed, theta in deep meditation and dream sleep, and delta in your deepest sleep. The gateway process. The CIA studied uses specific sound patterns, called binaural beats, to synchronize both sides of the brain. Imagine this. Play a tone at 100 Hz in your left ear and 104 Hz in your right. Your brain, forced to reconcile the mismatch, automatically creates a third phantom beat, the difference 4 Hz. It effectively guides your brain into a theta state. But this isn't pseudoscience. This is measurable neuroscience. Scientists can observe this effect in a lab. The brain actually generates frequencies internally that do not exist in the external world. Why does that matter? The document argues that at particular gateway frequencies, especially in the theta range, consciousness can decouple from its normal sensory anchors. In this detached state, the mind is said to access information not available through the 5 senses. Information about distant places, hidden objects, even classified data. For decades, skeptics called this fantasy. Yet, this document provides evidence that with training, these effects can be both learned and dramatically improved. What stunned me most was the discovery that this isn't just isolated to the human mind. Every living entity, cells, hearts, even DNA, emits recognizable electromagnetic frequencies. Your heart has its signature. Your very DNA vibrates. This adds fuel to a radical idea. Maybe the brain doesn't produce consciousness at all. Maybe it's a receiver tuning into an invisible signal, a kind of information field. McDonald's report supports this. He describes each person's consciousness as one fragment in a universal hologram, an interconnected system where every piece contains the imprint of the whole. The implication is staggering. If these abilities are real, and if they are trainable, why isn't this common knowledge? Why isn't it taught in schools? 2 words: information control. Powerful institutions derive their influence from proprietary access to knowledge. Pharmaceutical companies profit by treating symptoms. Intelligence agencies thrive on secrets. But what happens if any human being can master techniques to access hidden information, to accelerate healing, to develop extraordinary perception? The CIA document makes it clear. Such abilities are not the exclusive domain of psychics, but trainable skills that anyone can develop. That possibility shatters old hierarchies. It levels the playing field. No more information monopolies. No more unchecked surveillance. No more institutional secrets. Is it any wonder then that documents like this are buried under years of secrecy, redaction, academic dismissal, and media silence, and perhaps most disturbingly of all, if this was all possible 40 years ago, what might they have learned since? The story of government-sponsored research into remote viewing didn't end in the early 1980s. It evolved. Institutions like the Stanford Research Institute, Princeton's Engineering Anomalies Lab, and the Institute of Noetic Sciences all conducted controlled experiments. They asked a simple, radical question. Can ordinary people describe distant or hidden targets without using their physical senses? Decades of documented trials, some now declassified, produced results that made even hardened scientists hesitate. The CIA's own Stargate program, fully declassified in the mid-1990s, remains the most extensive of its kind. In laboratory trials, participants sometimes scored results statistically above chance. Not just vague guesses, but descriptions of locations, objects, even people, accurate enough to raise serious questions. Some star performers achieved reliability rates over 70%. Not everyone could do it. Not every session worked, but enough of them did to prove something unusual was happening. And that's where the challenge begins. Because while certain individuals achieved remarkable accuracy under strict conditions, real-world use was far less reliable. Agencies wanted precise, repeatable intelligence, names, locations, numbers, codes, but remote viewing at its best was inconsistent, strikingly accurate at times, hopelessly vague at others. For spies and generals, sometimes wasn't good enough. And so the programs never revolutionized intelligence gathering. But here's the haunting question. If it was nonsense, why did the US, Russia, and China pour decades of effort and millions of dollars into it? These are not nations known for wasting resources on fantasy. So maybe the real story isn't about spies peering into missile silos. Maybe it's about something much closer to us. Think about this. Have you ever known who was calling before you picked up the phone? Felt a pit in your stomach warning you of danger? Or walked into a room and instantly sensed tension before anyone said a word? We brush these off as coincidence. But what if they're not? What if they're glimpses of a natural human ability? An ability most people never learn to recognize, let alone develop. The declassified documents point to a provocative idea. These skills aren't rare gifts. They're dormant human functions, like muscles that atrophy when never used. Some theorists describe consciousness as a universal field of information. Everything that has ever happened, is happening, or could happen, exists in that field. Remote viewing, they suggest, is simply one way of accessing it. And this isn't just theory for me. After weeks of practice, I had my own breakthrough. One night, I described my sister's new apartment in Tokyo. The furniture arrangement, the wall colors, even a single book lying on her coffee table. She hadn't sent me photos. She hadn't even finished unpacking. But when I texted her my sketches, she confirmed every detail was correct. Was this scientific proof? No. But was it remarkable? Absolutely. It showed me these abilities aren't reserved for mystics or psychics. They're available to anyone willing to train. Now imagine what happens if even 1% of humanity learns to do this with accuracy. Missing persons found, terrorist plots uncovered before they unfold, scientific breakthroughs accessed directly from the information field, doctors diagnosing illness by scanning with consciousness alone. Think about that dash. Abilities that can't be patented, can't be monopolized, can't be hidden behind locked doors. That's the real reason these abilities unsettle those in power. Because unlike technology, they belong to everyone. And yet, our schools never mention them. Our medical systems dismiss them. Our culture ridicules them. Our religions insist you need intermediaries to reach anything spiritual. Whether intentional or not, the effect is the same. We're conditioned to forget our own potential. So the real question isn't whether the CIA spied successfully with remote viewers. The real question is this: what else are we capable of if we dare to try? Institutions like the Monroe Institute still teach the very protocols the CIA once studied. The documents are declassified. The exercises are public. The path is open to anyone. What's missing isn't access. It's belief. It's discipline. It's the courage to explore. And maybe that's the real secret hidden in all those files. Because the most subversive act isn't rebellion. It isn't protest. It isn't overthrowing governments. It's something much simpler and infinitely more dangerous. It's people realizing they never needed the system in the first place.